Welcome to Overlanders Then and Now. I'm Tom Bingle, here with my co-host, Jim King. What's up, mate?
Oh, mate. I like the way you adapt to the local dialect. Man, I like it. Reminds me of how the Beatles used to call themselves mates before Yoko, anyway. Sorry, Yoko. Just kidding.
Yeah, Jim. Well, mate seems appropriate since today we're going to be revisiting our day in the first European city, London. Then on to crossing the English Channel. Ooh, a definitely highlight for me, that English Channel. But let's start with London. Doc, any impressions? Any first
Um,
impressions?
London, well, to be honest, they're kind of hazy. It's been 50 years, but I do remember the shock of it. I'll say
Ooh,
that.
Jimmy. In what way, Jim? This is a broadcast. Jimmy, please elaborate.
Okay. Well, we spent days, as you'll recall, in this small, quaint, very quiet, quintessential English village with, smoke coming up from the chimneys, people on bikes, of course, the corner pubs. So it was just idyllic. And then,
Yes.
just a short ride later, we're standing in,
Hmm.
what was it, King's Cross Station in London.
Yes.
Yeah, this was our first real taste of Europe's rail system. And I got to say, they do it way better than we do.
Oh, Jimmy, I agree. I felt right at home. Right at home. Once we got on that train, it was just magnificent, Jim.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's my elaboration, mate. What's
All
what,
right,
what are your
Jimmy.
first impressions?
Oh, you're ready. Exciting. We're standing in the fog, the ubiquitous fog in England on the Huntingdon train station, on the platform with other commuters, for a train into London. And it was
Right.
another start. Finally, after months of planning, we're starting the trip again. It seems like every day we felt the real start of a trip, Jim, early on. But maybe this was a little different, Jimmy, because we were completely on our own. I was super pumped, super excited. Maybe we'll even see the Queen or meet with her, Jim.
Oh yeah. I think we just missed her. So,
Oh, okay.
what about London itself?
Oh, Jimmy, you mentioned King's Cross Station. Looked like no train station ever seen. Cavernous, massive steelworks, tons of people, great collection of trains going here and there. And Sherlock Holmes, I believe, was in the cafe.
I can't believe you. You just can't get rid of
No, I
Sherlock
can't.
Holmes.
Well, then the tube. Jim, what is this underground? And end up in Trafalgar Square. We pop up, and here is a statue of Admiral Nelson. Oh, Jim, and then the highlight of the trip, right there in Trafalgar Square, so far was pigeons shitting on our backpacks,
Oh
Jim.
God, I remember that. That was quite a welcome to London. But
Yes.
but the tube was, definitely cool. I've only been back to London once or twice since then, and so I don't know what it's like today. But back then, it was clean, quiet,
Yeah.
people reading their Financial Times or whatever, and I felt safe, despite the fact that the IRA had been planting bombs on trains in the underground over the previous few years.
That's right, Jimmy. It's easy to forget how tumultuous those times were.
Yeah.
The IRA was active. The famous, shouldn't say famous, but the Bader Meinhof gang in Germany. And weren't we in Europe when the Italian prime minister was kidnapped and murdered, Jimmy?
Yep. Yeah, we were. It was a few months later in 78. Aldo Moro was
Oh,
murdered by the Red Brigade. So the whole world, it seemed, was on fire.
okay, but Jim, this conversation's not going in the direction we had planned. But Doc, what's your biggest takeaway from London?
Well, it was hectic. You somehow managed to get us to all of the must-see sites, Big Ben, Parliament, Buckingham Palace, Hyde Park. This is one day. What am I leaving out?
Oh, and Jimmy, let's see. We rode that double-decker bus around
Oh, yeah.
Westminster Abbey,
Hmm.
St. Paul's, Tower of London, Tower Bridge, and when we got off, Jim, we watched the changing of the Queen's Guard on Whitehall. Oh,
So, out of all that, and there was a lot, what's the one scene that, you've revisited in your mind ever since?
oh, I think Doc, it's less of a particular scene, but more of a feeling. Just Jimmy coming up and seeing all those historic buildings so close together, people
Hmm.
of all nationalities walking the streets, especially large representations from the continents of Africa and Asia, and the mix of historic with modern buildings just kind of, I don't know, blending in harmoniously. And the women, some in mini skirts, some more traditional, and some in more hippie style flowing dresses, Jim.
Oh, gee, I didn't notice any of that. I guess I was too busy admiring
Oh,
the local architecture.
sure, Doc. Sure, I know how you're very studious in that point. It was just such a great feeling. It gave me a sense of freedom for some reason. Unlike any other I had experienced before. Just exhilarating. Doc, what about you? Anything there?
Well, it may sound bizarre, but in addition to the ambitious pace that you set, I remember watching, as you mentioned, the changing of the Queen's Guard
Mhm.
when a tour bus pulled up and all the passengers had a camera up to their face. This was before cell phones and selfie sticks and all that. So, and from the moment the bus pulled up to the moment it pulled away, the cameras were never lowered. I never saw any faces. It reminded me of an essay that I read in college. I think you were in the same class. I'm not sure. It was about tourists at Yellowstone, and they were so busy capturing Old Faithful on film that it was like they never really truly saw it or never really experienced it. So I made a vow to take fewer pictures
Mhm.
and try to just understand and experience the moment. In retrospect, I wish I had taken more pictures since we really don't have very
Uh,
many.
well, we probably have more if you hadn't been relieved,
Yeah,
James, of your
that's right.
camera in Pakistan.
Mm.
But we'll talk about that in another post and blogcast. Let's get back to jolly old England. It was quite a day in London, but that night we were back on British Railway, heading to Dover to catch the ferry, which goes across the English Channel. And on that train, we kind of recapped our time in London. And this was our first city together, first time. And that experience led to many questions about how we will approach future sites. Do you recall that ride through the Kent countryside, Jim?
Actually, I think I'm the one who should be asking you that question because, I was staring out the window like a big lump while you were very, extremely busy consulting all your various guidebooks and maps
Oh
and
yeah.
planning all the places we would visit in Copenhagen. So, do you remember anything about the Kent countryside base?
Jimmy, fair question. I think this was the first major indicator that we had very different styles of traveling, or at least different preferences
Right.
on what to do when we got to the city or destination. I wanted to make sure, ooh, Jimmy, I didn't miss anything. I love learning about different places, the history, the culture, the people. Not that you were not interested in those things, but I was starting to notice that you seemed less interested in an itinerary than just I don't know, Jimmy, observing. I don't know if that's the right word.
Well, it's a nice word for lazy.
James.
But you're right. You're right. I guess I was more interested in getting the feel of the place, kind of like what you
Mhm.
said earlier, and the people that, you know, than I was in visiting every landmark and reading every historical plaque. So, you know, I soon discovered, by the way, that there wasn't a historical marker or plaque that escaped your notice, and I think you read every one of them out loud.
Oh, Jimmy, I still do that. Let's talk about the next big moment, Jimmy. Crossing the English Channel from
Yeah.
Dover to Oostan, Belgium. Wow, a ferry, Jim, crossing the famous English Channel at night. Largest, boat that I've ever seen. And into the night, we powered, getting a last glimpse at the White Cliffs of Dover.
That was, really special and unique. And I remember, Binks, we were, up on the upper deck out in the open, and we
Yeah.
both experienced what, we called in one of the earlier videos, a moment of nirvana. And I remember looking at those cliffs and feeling a sense of history, as
Yeah.
corny as
Yep.
that may sound, and the fact that wow, I was there in person. It's hard to describe. It was
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, just being out on deck like that, and with that kind of scenery was very invigorating. And it was a great memory. I love it.
Oh, Jimmy, me too. It gave me a feeling of freedom being out on that deck, of freedom from responsibility, freedom from pressure, freedom from our past. I felt we had a possibility of creating, our own path, our own experience, up on that upper deck. And we'll let the world come to us, Jim. Boom.
Ah, well, I think we were going to meet the world, but that trip on the ferry kind of set the standard
Mhm.
for all subsequent ferries we took. You may remember immediately after
Oh, yeah.
boarding, no matter what the weather was, we would hurry up to the top deck and get the best possible view. And the more wind, the better.
Yeah, Jimmy, right. And to feel that breeze again, that sea, the salt
Hmm.
air breeze against my face and the hair, it works. It's magic again, Jim. I felt, oh, if I had any wrinkles, they would just fall right down on the deck. It just was so releasing from our current existence.
Well, getting rid of those wrinkles would be something we could use, 50 years later. But so
Oh
next on the docket, Binks, we're going to set foot for the first time on the continent, landing in Belgium
gosh. And Jimmy, then on to one of my favorite cities,
with lots of historical plaques to read.
Copenhagen. So thanks for watching. And until next time, everyone,
Cheerio,
cheerio,
mates.
mates.
We were close that time.